The Mummy Returns is easily the second best of the Brendan Fraser Mummy trilogy. It has a rushed, messy script, the visual effects were rendered on a particularly weak potato, and at least one scene is a huge rip-off of the Lost World Jurassic Park. But it is an otherwise enjoyable, if culturally problematic, action romp with a charming main cast, and it could make for a great video game adaptation. Ancient tombs and temples, trains and car chases, supernatural baddies. The movie already looks like a PS2 game, so how could it miss? Well, it misses pretty hard. But it misses in a way that I find kind of fascinating. There was an attempt here to make something, anything, with breathtakingly few resources. This is not your ordinary licensed cash grab, and I'm gonna tell you why. The Mummy Returns the video game was released in 2001, developed by Blitz Games, renowned peddlers of licensed garbage, but also the creators of Barbie Horse Adventures Wild Horse Rescue, a delightful and genuinely great game that I love. I'm gonna have to check out more of their games, because there's a non-zero chance I'll fall in love with one of their other productions. It's unlikely to be Bad Boys Miami Takedown though.
Who needs accuracy when you got a scattergun?
That's it. I am totally leaving the country.
Anyway, back to The Mummy Returns, a standard third-person action game in which you kill baddies and traverse across levels that are very, very rough approximations of scenes from the movie. You get to play as either the unusually handsome, reformed criminal swashbuckler and chosen by fate to be the protagonist Rick O'Connell, as he attempts to rescue his little shit kid from the clutches of some kind of mummy. Or you get to play as said mummy, the re-resurrected, betrayed the pharaoh because his legs are too short and his torso too long Imhotep on his quest to gain the powers of the Scorpion King, control the armies of Anubis, and subjugate the entire world under the law of the loincloth. Whoever you choose, you'll be exploring a tomb or two, shedding lots of blood in the British Museum, mowing down baddies in the streets of Cairo, which bears a striking resemblance to another Barbie game, and of course do a little bit of crawling through a jungle and finally a temple to confront what may as well be the actual movie 3D model of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Scorpion Centaur. Other than all the killing, you'll also be doing plenty of awkward platforming, item collection, and light puzzle solving. As Rick, you get the American superpower of gun, but you'll also regularly be using dynamite, shields, and because ammunition can be rather scarce in tombs that have been sealed for 5,000 years, you will find yourself kick-punching and sword-fighting much of the time. Imhotep is equally adept at punch-kicking and sword-fighting, but also knows the ancient Egyptian art of magic tricks, increase your strength, insta-kill enemies, and of course, regain health by sucking off dudes for their life force. A valuable skill indeed. It's a bad game, but surely I can find something good in it. Some of the music kinda rocks, that's one thing. And it's just cool that you get the option to play as the bad guy too. And while there is a lot of overlap of the levels, they never play the same way. And not just because Rick and Imhotep have different abilities and mechanics. Sometimes it's as basic as the level being played in reverse. Sometimes you go through the same level but have different interactables. Sometimes you branch off into entirely different paths. And there are indeed a couple of unique levels to each campaign. And I'm so sorry for this, Steve, but kicking a crocodile to death in this game is just hilarious. Now the bad? Well, on a fundamental level, the controls are slow and laggy and primitive. Level design is really frustrating. They're all confusing labyrinths with insta-death traps and pits. Don't expect any sensible checkpointing either. If you die, be prepared to do a big chunk of level all over again. There's a 3D map to consult, but it's hard to use. Enemies are annoying, especially the animals. I know the big bad of the story is the Scorpion King, but these regular scorpions are hateful little bastards. The voice acting is not great.
I have the boy. We will go wait for the train to Karnak. It should come by nightfall.
Our good friend Kevin Michael Richardson, who you might remember for not trying at all to sound like Benjamin Sisko, now doesn't sound at all like Imhotep the Mummy.
I will stop them. By nightfall, the boy will be an orphan.
To be fair to him, Imhotep wasn't really a big speaker in the movies, so to show some kind of characterization they decided to give him evil villain monologues in the game.
I am an immortal. You are no match for my powers. Why do you challenge my greatness?
Whoever they got to do a Brendan Fraser impression did a hilarious, award-worthy job.
Tell me, Sweet Pea, if this ancient temple has been sealed off from the world for 1,000 years or so, why is there a burning torch right over there?
Nobody's mouths move while they're talking, but Imhotep does do his trademark unhinging jaw thing. The boss fights aren't great, either too easy or too hard, but never particularly engaging. The final boss in particular is an annoying puzzle to figure out, but at least it's the same fight for both characters. One absolutely baffling thing is the complete lack of clips from the movie. I get that there was no money for pre-rendered cutscenes, but having just paragraphs of scrolling text with a poor imitation of Oded Fair to tell most of the story is the definition of low budget. They got the likenesses for the actors, so what was keeping them from using the footage at all? And finally, while the movie is full of chases and exciting time pressure scenes, here you get none of that. No double-decker bus chase through London, no dirigible outrunning a wall of water through a canyon, and worst of all, no train level whatsoever. That by itself is almost unforgivable. These are set pieces that would have cost money to make, but they are huge missed opportunities nonetheless. Yes, The Mummy Returns for the Sony PlayStation 2 computer entertainment system is an obvious licensed cash grab made solely to take money from people who enjoyed the movie and wanted more. Or confused grandmas. But think about it like this. Say you run a game development studio. You are given $200 and an old IBM ThinkPad to make a PS2 game in 3 months, or the executives will shut down your studio. How do you accomplish this? Simple. You don't make a PS2 game. You make a PS1 game. It's genius, really. Don't bother with animating silly things like faces, don't waste your time on a motion capture rig, reuse assets smartly and keep the level designs as simple as you can get away with. That's what this is. It's a PS1 game with PS2 textures and models, and I admire it for that. We all know landfills are full of licensed games that are trash all the way through, where the budgets and time constraints were so low that there is nothing of value printed on the disc. But The Mummy Returns is a monument to Blitz Games' ability to do plenty with very little. And here I am, trying to do the best I can with this YouTube thing with very little resources myself. I can do nothing but respect the game. Yes, The Mummy Returns is a bad PS2 game, but also, it's a kind of okay PS1 game. Since playing this, I have learned that there are indeed games for the other movies. The Mummy on PlayStation by Rebellion, of all people, would be an interesting comparison. How funny would it be if it turned out to play more like a PS2 game? At the very least, it looks like it has clips from the movie. There's a game of the third film, which nobody remembers. And then finally, there's a game of the boring prequel that doesn't explain anything Scorpion King movie. Let me know if you want me to suffer through any of these. I'll gladly do it if it makes you happy.
Imhotep! Get out of the way! I have the scepter of Osiris. So ends the reign of the Scorpion King.